But the people of Kaduna State see, feel, and know the worsening levels of insecurity, debt burden, infrastructural decay, corruption, and poverty in the state. It further stated the community is being subjected to unrelenting slaughter in the southern Kaduna northern and security issues, and that the government has treated them with indifference. So the communities in the Gubernatorial area have enjoyed unlimited peace and their lifestyles. Millennium City, KKA, KKP, and Busha. People are looking. People are looking. They are not touching us. All areas bordering with any bush within Kaduna State, and there are 5 acquired communities. It is a matter of status of what you can afford. People who cannot afford what
look at similar that the Auditor General report. Is in Kaduna State based on the annual budget report that is currently online. So all the numbers I'm quoting are online. So, and it is official government documents that these sources are gotten. So in 2021, IRS, which is the Kaduna State Internal Revenue Service, had a target of 22 billion, but they were only able to meet 15.3 billion, which is 66.6% performance. Similarly, out of the 11 billion projected for CAGIS, they were only able to meet 4.7 billion, which is 41% performance. Also, the Ministry of Finance had a target of 5.3 billion, but they were only able to meet 3.5, which is 66%. So that almost buttresses the Auditor General's report in terms of performance. And one critical area that again will speak to issue around revenue is our debt. Currently our debt, and I would just want to even reference a statement His Excellency, the current government, the governor, did in an interview in one of the news outlets. I don't want to name it here so that Ogaton, you would not say I'm doing advert. In 2014, and this is what they said: from our estimate, every child born in Kaduna State has a debt of 15,000. If you have a child going to be born tomorrow, that child already has a debt burden of 15 billion, and there are about 8 million people in Kaduna State. That was in 2014. But when we did the debt per capita for the current budget at 307 billion, every resident of Kaduna owes 32,000, about 838 naira. Every resident, both the children and the old. So, and that also is an issue of, there is an issue of servicing this debt, because in 2022, as we are now, our debt service is about 12.9 billion naira, which is approaching about 40 or so percent of the revenue we are expected in the state. So that means about 40% of our revenue will go to debt services. So for the incoming government in 2023, that debt service is projected to reach 15.7%, which goes further to close to 50% of the IGR that will be generated. And these are from official government documents. So even the governor also admitted in the recent media chat that the insecurity is affecting the investors that are supposed to be in Kaduna. He started the project in Jere, Kagarko local government, and also he also admitted that the investors are afraid of coming back, while others are shying away because of insecurity. And if you look at our debt sustainability strategy as a state, the government is saying that we would be depending on these investments to be able to generate revenue to pay these debts that we have done. And insecurity is hindering that. And in the media chat, the governor also admitted that even contractors now are not being paid for certain projects. So why we are putting this into context is that whichever government that comes to power in 2023, these are the realities that will confront you or any other person that emerges at there. So what would you do to, one, review the revenue process? Because globally, also like you highlighted, micro and small business are the highest contributors to revenue, highest contributors to job creation. But we have also seen that more attention has been paid to the big investors, and the small investors might not have gotten that same issue. Then farmers also are being displaced due to insecurity, so they are not farming. Transportation of this produce that used to bring little revenue is not happening. So where would you get the revenue, or what would you do differently to ensure that beyond saying revenue is increasing, we see it on the ground? Because even as civil society, when we track projects, what we see is that when you go, they tell you that social amount has been released. When you go to the MDA, they will tell you no cash backing. And this shows that it's an issue of revenue, because probably we need to look at our budget realism to ask whether what we are budgeting is actually what we deliver on this thing. So I'm putting all of this to ask this question: what will you be doing differently, considering this very, I don't know the right word to use now, but very difficult financial situation that we find ourselves, considering that even the federal government is battling to pay debt service in terms of revenue to debt service. It's an issue. NNPC has not remitted about 600 billion in the first quarter of 2022, which is supposed to go to FAC to be allocated to state. FAC is dwindling and all of that. So we just want to hear your opinion on this difficulty.
Just before you come on board, distinguished Senator, I'd just like for us to have a break. We'll take a break for the news in brief at 10, so that you can take all of these together. So at 10, we'll go for the news brief. Job now.
Abin kaunana, ko za ka sabunta min rajistar data ta Airtel?
Abba masoyiyata, ai komai kike ce kina so, zan yi miki. Duk abin da kike gani, ni ne nake yin rajista, amma fa ranar shagalin bikin aure na shine abin da nake kallo.
Muhimman abubuwa da harkokin rayuwa ba sa yiwa sai da ingantacciyar data. Danna star 141 hash ka zabi data mai inganci da za ta yi maka aiki cikin inganci da gamsarwa.
Airtel, the smartphone network. Enjoy the creamy coffee taste of Cowbell coffee round the clock. It's really delicious. Taste it and you will love it. Cowbell coffee. Taste the creamy side of coffee.
Now available in multi-pack pouches at 750 naira only.
Sunana Badaru, ni ne likitan Fatima duk wani kuɗi da ya yagi ta amfani da salatif ɗina da reza na. Duk wanda ke da kuɗi da ke neman sauran rai dan a kashe a unguwarmu suna zuwa samuna. Amma daga yanzu na janye aikin Fatina saboda bankin biyan ababe ta Momo, sabuwar hanyar turawa da karɓar kuɗi wanda ya fi tsabar kuɗi a hannu.
Danna star 671 hash domin buɗe wallet na Momo a yau. Hanya mafi sauƙi ta aikawa da karɓar kuɗi zuwa kowace lambar waya kyauta. Rayuwa ya ƙara sauƙi saboda Momo ya fi tsabar kuɗi a hannu.
This is Invicta 98.9 FM, Kaduna, Nigeria. I am Job Daniel with the news brief. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has backed calls for the country to adopt diaspora voting. Obasanjo made the remark when the chairman, CEO, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NITCOM, Honorable Dr. Abike Dabri Erewa, and some staff of the commission paid him a courtesy call in Abeokuta, Ogun State. According to the former president, the National Assembly should amend the country's laws to make room for Nigerians abroad to vote during elections. And Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State has clarified that Idris Ojo is not one of the suspected masterminds of the Owo church attack. The governor gave the clarification in a statement issued by his chief press secretary, Richard Olatunde, on Wednesday, hours after Ojo was named as one of the suspects in the June attack. The governor, therefore, urged members of the public to remain vigilant and give necessary support to the security agencies in the state. And from the foreign scene, North Korea's Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, says he suffered from fever during the COVID pandemic, in what appears to be the first suggestion he had the virus. According to reports, Kim Yo-jong also blamed South Korea for her country's outbreak, saying it sent leaflets contaminated with COVID across the border. Ms. Kim was speaking as her brother declared victory in the country's battle against COVID, but South Korea rejected the claims as groundless. And in sports, Britain's Cameron Norrie, Jack Draper, and Dan Evans are all through to the third round of the Canadian Open as Nick Kyrgios came from a set down to beat world number one Daniil Medvedev. Draper, aged 20, defeated Greek Stefanos Tsitsipas 7-5, 7-5, 7-4 to claim his first victory over a top 10 player, while Evans beat world number 8 Audrey Rublev 6-4, 6-4 in Montreal. British number 1 Norrie, aged 26, came through 6-1, 6-2 against Dutchman Botic van Zandschulp. And that makes the news brief at 10. A major bulletin comes up at midday. Good morning and have a victorious day.
Wake up. Let's wake up. Good morning, everybody.
What a beautiful morning it
and
is.
Smell the coffee. Let's get started, shall we? Wake up and smell the coffee. On the Coffee Morning Drive, 98.9 Invicta FM.
Agenda. The Agenda is a public enlightenment program designed to give power back to the people through promoting political participation, issue-based campaigns, and social accountability. The Agenda is a weekly program of active citizens by active citizens for all citizens, featuring in-depth analysis, news commentary, and issue-based interviews with stakeholders in governance and electoral process. The Agenda is about you, the listener, your power to determine who leads you, setting the agenda for public office seekers and holding them accountable. The Agenda, mobilizing citizens to meaningfully engage the 2023 general elections by making sure those seeking their votes have real intentions of true representatives. Tune in every Thursdays at 9 a.m. on Invicta FM 98.9. Join the conversation via phone-in and comments on our social media handles. Powered by Partnership for Issue-Based Campaigns in Nigeria, PICAN, and Invicta FM 98.9, Kaduna. The Agenda. Nigeria. My agenda.
Welcome back. It's the agenda this morning, and just before we went on that break, Yusuf Goje had come out with some issues and areas that he would want the distinguished senator, flag bearer of the New Nigeria People's Party, to deal on. And so we pass the banner, to you now, distinguished Senator Sulieman Hunkuyi of the NNPP, the New Nigeria People's Party.
Thank you very much. Dr. Goji has succeeded in outlining some of the very ugly financial picture of our state today. It is no longer news that the Kaduna state government is owing, as at the last count, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, 307 billion. And we know as at today, that figure has jumped up because over 70% of the debt burden is overseas dollar-based lending. And the dollar keeps skyrocketing against the very poorly managed Nigerian economy. The assessment of 307 billion was, with the dollar maybe at about 500 plus or thereabout. Today, 381. Today, we know that that rate has changed. It has jumped up. Therefore, 307 billion a month ago probably would have gone to 340 or 350 billion. Now, to be honest, one does not need a soothsayer that Kaduna State is in daredevil economic predicament. Ordinarily, if I were the way I was contesting, probably in 2011, these are enough to scare any reasonable contesting governor into the office of governor in the state to be in charge of navigating out of these troubled economic waters. One can definitely excuse himself. But the issue in Kaduna State is completely another one. The priority in Kaduna State is that we have a collective responsibility of stopping the economic drift. Without intervening, without sacking this government, the people, the state, will stand mortgaged till their children and children to come. Therefore, I still stand to be counted as a contestant, even having discovered the enormity of the problem financially, because I agree I should be part and parcel of those critical stakeholders that will ferry or should ferry my dear state out of this predicament. Now, what we can do, we definitely can do a lot. But the first most important is excusing these people in government today. Because without doing that, what Dr. Goje did not tell us probably is that even in 2022, with this debt burden, they are still borrowing. They are still borrowing. Even in their medium-term plan, in 2023, tend to borrow. So that tells you the first remedy is to disable these people and excuse them through the ballot box out of the places of authority in decision making in Kaduna State. Having said so, like I said already, the first most important thing to do when we come in is to stop the budget. We have to reassess it. In reassessing the budget, you assess the revenue. The revenue profile will have to undergo very serious scrutiny, and as far as we are concerned, from the indices of collection which has been indicated, even though again we know by the time this government leaves, that is by the end of this year, a lot of the debt collection in taxes over the past 3-4 years would have come to an end. Hence, the revenue jacket will still shrink further. Knowing that, in our own opinion, we need to critically assess the budget. In assessing the budget, if need be, and we are sure there will be need for that, we have to suspend some of the items of expenditure that are not necessary or are not of priority attention to government. That is very, very key. You have to be able, within the paper of the budget, to raise monies in areas that are critical in revenue segments of the budget to see what little things are critically to be done. Therefore, reassessing the budget, reallocating resources, and removing some items that are not necessary are key to the outing of reassessment of that budget. Number two, we have to critically look at the possibility of rescheduling some of those debts. 12 billion in servicing the existing, not tomorrow, existing debt burden, 12 billion, which can jump up to 13, 14, or 15 by the time the government leaves office. Because like we said, the cost of the dollar against the very battered local currency of our naira is so poorly placed, and it is still drifting down. Therefore, as far as we are concerned, there is nothing wrong in rescheduling those debts that ought to be rescheduled. These will allow quantum of some reasonable revenue to come into fruition, rather than by servicing those debts, you now spread them back into critical areas of the prioritized budget. I have said before in the beginning of this program that security is key. Therefore, note it that a lot of those funding will go into the critical area of security as a matter of the first most important priority of government. 5, we need to cut down spending, and you do that through 2-3 basic areas. I have already mentioned one. The other is you cut down the size of machinery of government. Some people will feel there is a problem here. Yes, there is. Because we are talking about bringing back some of the illegally, unlawfully, unreasonably dismissed public servants, teachers who have been meted with undue disadvantage or advantage of governance by laying them off while they are not supposed to be laid off. An assessment of that at the end of the day will definitely, reasonably bring some of them back. So you are bringing back workers, your cost of personnel will definitely rise. These are some of the areas we are talking about that a reassessment of the budget will have to address. For revenue, one of the key things is we feel we need to appoint in place very serious committees to watch some appointed spending limits and areas of spending of government. Here particularly, we are thinking of, as we would see in some areas as we go in this program, what we are thinking of is to appoint community-based committees community-based committees that are in charge of the welfare of people, that are in charge of critical infrastructure of education, health, and other areas of government in their localities. At least one in each local government. Watching the spendings at that point is very key, because you are not assigning and closing your eyes to machinery of government at every level to just go into spending and decide the cost of contracts and decide the cost of items and their quality and what have you. That, we believe, can be assessed at a most local practical level where the consumers are the people themselves. And it is not difficult to identify in those communities people that are of quality behavior, people that are very, very amiable and amicable to the existence of those communities in trying to gauge whatever projects that are critical and crucial to the people at that level. In our own opinion, it is very, very important to know, and I believe so, and I practically agree that is the way it should be. What big money cannot do, small money can do.
Thank you very much.
And that is to tell you the most important thing is reinventing the attitude of procurement processes in government. A lot of those contracts, a lot of those jobs, a lot of those infrastructure on ground could be achieved in less amounts of monies than what we have been now meted with in this state.
Thank you, sir. As we start to wind down, we cannot finish this program without going to education, which is the foundation of development. Again, I'm giving a data from the annual census report of 2020, school census report of 2020. It said there are about 2,399 170 pupils in Kaduna State, with classroom of about 20,267. Out of this 20,267, 8,239 classroom need major repairs. 17,056 classroom are without sufficient ceiling provision. 12,010 classroom without good blackboard, representing about 36%. In addition, 1,595 schools are holding classes outside, that's under trees and all that, which is about 35%. 3,007 schools are without health facilities. These are major challenges in Kaduna State. And we know that with the high cost of everything, a lot of the citizens of Kaduna are now relying on public schools. What do you think you can do differently to improve the quality and standard of education in Kaduna State? My colleague will now give you the...
All right. So again, since I'll just add one on education, then look at another one sector, then that will be the last set of questions. Is looking at the state-owned high institutions. We know that the school fees has been increased, and a lot of issues have come up around that. And recently, the ASU Kaduna chapter, a document that they made public that is circulating, also is complaining that even this school fees that has been increased is sent to the TSA, and the school is not benefiting from it, and they are now even calling the like Castle a third fund university and all of that. So want to know what will you do in terms of the tuition fee, and what will you do in terms of the development of high institutions against what we have on ground. Then another critical area that I want to get your thought, and this is quoted by our governor, so all of the facts we are giving have sources by an organization. Maybe I will discuss with my organ if I can start calling my sources, yeah, as long as they are media houses. So the governor revealed in his plan to build 2 power plants in the state to encourage investment and revival of Kaduna's textile industry. Most of the textile factories went down when electricity became too unreliable, he said, regarding an industry that was quite active in the 60s and 70s. He further said that 250 megawatts will be supplied by a power plant which was about 95% complete, using a mix of gas, crude oil, and diesel. The hydroelectric power plant elsewhere in the state will provide another 30 megawatts. He further stated that the state had already signed 3 solar power purchase deals that will each produce 100 megawatts, 200 megawatts, and were expected to become operational in the last quarter of 2017. So this statement was in 2015, I think, 2016, when they came into office, because we know that to revive the critical sector of the micro and small businesses, electricity power is key, because we already know where diesel is today and what have you. Most hotels, for example, ration lights when they on their diesel because they can't afford it. So just want your thoughts first on education, then on this area. I don't know whether we still have time for our listeners.
Well, since you have said, I think we are up against time. We quickly can go into a fast review. In our own opinion, education is a social service. It is indeed a right under the Charter, and for social reasons, no government will want to joke with the issue of education, because even if you do and you decide not to give it the desired attention, it has a way of getting back to you, and whatever you think you are saving for not investing under education can be wiped off within the twinkle of an eye. That is just a very small theory and in practice of what we know of education. Therefore, regrettably, we knew at the instance of coming in of this government between 2015 2016, I remember very, very well what appears to be a quantum investment that was supposed to have been made into the facilities of education, and I don't know what to make of what is happening today with this new indices that has been declared in the area of education. But having said so, education being a social service, in our own opinion, first of all, similar to the problem of the district heads and village heads, we are reverting back to statu quo for fees introduced within the university system or higher education segment of the industry in Kaduna State. We are reverting back to statu quo. There is no reason to ask the common people to pay what you definitely know they cannot afford. Government and the people themselves cannot afford for the children not to go to school. And yet, we know, government know, even from the collection, even from the enrollment, and even from those number of students that now fall out of school, they know the people cannot afford it. So since we know education, we cannot afford not to send our children to school, and yet people cannot afford, then it is to strike a balance between the two reasonably, because government is the provider, it's a social service. Therefore, without mincing word, without raising any eyebrow, we are reverting back to statu quo on the school fees issue that has been introduced by this government. It's needless. That is number one. Number two, we have said, you have indicated very, very ugly situation. And it is from what government itself and other development partners have brought out, which is a statement of fact. Issue of daredevil situation of infrastructure of education. The quantum, the size, you know, I know, the people know, no one can go in there and make such a difference that could be immediately felt, as ugly as that situation is here today. But in our own opinion, under our prioritization, we know that putting these kids out of school and dropouts can create another social evil. Indeed, we do believe it has already manifested that a lot of the problem of drugs by the youth are direct impact and result of dropouts and children that cannot afford to go to school. Therefore, as far as we are concerned, we feel, how are we going to improve the quantum of the infrastructure in our schools? Best way, we have to tell ourselves the truth. If we have 50 schools, primary schools or secondary schools within the local government, we have to tell ourselves the truth. We need to appoint a people-oriented school board, a board that will assess. The board, first of all, has to have every segment of experience required on that board. You need to have a down-to-earth practical engineer that can assess within reason the roof, assess the requirement in seats and desks, prioritize which of the schools must be done first. Even within the schools, probably which of the classes need to be equipped as a matter of urgency, so that we make quantum investment, but so also in making those investments, we have said it here, a lot of those fund allocations end up misappropriated. And that is what I said. 2015, 2016, we have had Kaduna State government made billions of naira investment into the critical infrastructure of classrooms, blackboards, toilets in schools, books, uniforms, even the feeding program. The kind of quantum of funding that has gone in our own opinion, like we have said, we have no option. What big monies cannot do, small monies must be able to achieve. And how? Like we said, prudence. Prudence. And prudence means not only appointing critical required committees at the community level, but so also in government. We need to know that we cannot even afford to be the same spent drift this government is, because the money is not there. So we have to source the critical funds and then make allocations, follow them up, make sure that whatever allotment is done in priority goes into expenditure and value addition of those critical infrastructure.
Distinguished Senator,
thank you
for time and to get the people to be part of this program too. We'd like to take on some calls, and these calls will be brief too. We have comments because we're streaming live on this program in Victor 98.9. Comments are dropping in too. But again, we'd like to go to the audience, get your thoughts too, and one or two areas that you feel that you want to have questions for the distinguished senator under the NNPP. That's the New Nigeria People's Party. That's the platform, that we are talking on today. And so numbers to call to be part of this program, 081 40,000 989, 081 40,000 989, or 070 87800 989, 070 87800 989. Taking your calls now. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Tony. Good morning, everybody in the studio.
Yes.
Distinguished Senator, good morning. My name is Musa Bala. I'm calling from Kaduna.
Yes.
A lot has been said by the Senator and the promises to revert some of the critical decisions taken by this government, like introduce back, sack traditional chiefs, revert back to school fees. I just want to say congratulations on that area, and the people of Kaduna State will hold this as part of the promises made by the NNPP if eventually get elected. And generally on the issue of loans, I don't know why we are not talking about whether this loan has been misappropriated or there are projects on ground to justify the loans. And why are we not looking at those projects prior to this government, like construction claims have been made by previous administration, paid, concluded, and in the actual sense, there's not even one trip or sun on that area, like the Wharf Road, like a lot of fake schools and fake institutions. The people of Kaduna State will have been very, very grateful if the NGOs and the CSO will dig into the issue of whether this loan has been misappropriated or projects were not actually executed by this loan. I think enough of that issue of repayment of loan. Let us know whether this loan were utilized or not, so that we will move forward. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Isabella, thank you. All right, and still with your calls here. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Quickly, yes.
Good morning, the distinguished senator.
A very good morning.
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Comrade Gabriel, the unpaid exam. Sir, you talk about the utilization, and those days I know Kaduna used to be second to Lagos. Hello?
Go on.
We can hear you.
Can hear you. Go on.
Kaduna used to be the second to Lagos. But today, sir, if you look at it, most of these textile industries and others have closed. And I definitely know that if they are being revived, they're going to create massive employment for we Nigerians. Now, Kaduna Textile Limited is 4 million textile built by less amount of Sokoto, since 2002. And up to date, as I'm speaking to you, sir, the workers there have not been paid anything, and we have a record of 480 people that died. Same thing with other textiles, not tens, pants, unit super tens. This, if your government, by the grace of God, you are elected and come into the office, what are you going to do to see that this industry are being revived, including even NNPP, the family at Nigeria, that will have created more employment for Nigerians? So what are you going to do, sir, differently to see that we get back to our job and then probably employ more and more youth? God bless you, sir.
All right, so we'll take one more and then we'll come to our guest in the studios. Right, while we wait for that call to come in, I have a caller there. Hello, good morning.
My dear, a very good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, distinguished senator. And good morning, Job Daniels. Thank you. Kure is the name. Yes, the senator has spoken very well. I want to ask him 2 or 3 questions. What will he do? What will he do differently from the other people that have just messed the country up?
especially in Kaduna, in terms of insecurity.
Let's be civil with
education.
questions and answers too. Here, messed up or how you put it, Kuri. Just ask
Yes,
those
I
straight
say,
questions.
what will he do? Because it seemed to me either he's from former PDP or from former APC. What will he do that is different? And secondly, will he remove? Will he continue issue of fertilizer subsidy removal? That's just what I want to know about
got
it.
you on that.
Have a
All
wonderful
right.
day.
Yes,
Thank you.
Well, distinguished Senator, let's continue.
Well, thank you very much, our listeners. First of all, let me start from Mr. Kure. Even though the question was not too really clear, but I think if you are talking on security, I think we have spoken very deeply, widely on the issue of security and what we are likely to do very differently. And I assessed, I think, about 6 ways we will definitely act differently. On the issue of subsidy of fertilizer, Mr. Kure, you have to understand, comes under exclusive legislative list, because at the end of the day, it is the federal government under the general economic assessment that they can now have the authority or power to reintroduce subsidy on fertilizer or decide to remove it completely. But like I said, agriculture remain in Kaduna State one of the key employers of labor and probably one of the most highest contributors to the economic indices of the state. Therefore, we have said we will have to recreate means and ways of offering through assessed, supervised, and closed-looped control of offering some form of support and subsidies to the agri sector individuals that decide to key into such programs. On a general basis, we may not have the capacity to offer complete subsidy on fertilizer, but the NNPP government at the federal level is people-based. I can assure you, I am not Rabiu Musa Konkoso, I am not the presidential candidate, but I do know the NNPP as a government do refer and defer to the people. And we do know definitely any people-oriented government will reintroduce the issue of subsidy to fertilizer. After all, today we have seen, Mr. Kure, permit me to say, a situation by 2015 when NNPP, APC came into power, about 120 billion naira in subsidy of agriculture within the nation annually was removed. But we saw at the tweet lights few months ago, 2-3 employees of government carted away with over 240 billion. That is 2 years subsidy for fertilizer being stolen by 2 individuals. So it is needless to say, government definitely at the center, at the top, the NNPP government will definitely do even more than bringing back subsidy of fertilizer at the end of the day. No doubt about that. Number 2, comrade, you spoke also about the textiles. The issue of businesses, particularly textiles, falls again under the exclusive legislative list because it is under the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment for them to liberalize some of these indices of production and, of course, exports and imports. Here today, what we see completely, even if government have succeeded in blocking off the borders, virtually 80-90% of the textile materials we utilize here are imported. So, in our own opinion, definitely reassessing the production segment of the economy, particularly the textile industry, is key. Some of the advanced nations of the world are willing. Investors, foreign, are willing. If we can, yes, we liberalize some of those sectors, we bring in some of those investors, let them partner with local investors and bring up those segments of production. Textile industry is an advanced industry today in the world, and I can assure you there are countries that really make a lot through the revenues of textiles. Talk of China, talk of India. Of course, they are bigger nations, but so also with our population, textile market is a very huge market in Nigeria, and we need to look inwards. It's just similar, if you permit me, comrade, and our listeners, very similar to what we are now seeing. Go into production of PMS by putting our refineries in working order. We refused. Today, we are in a quagmire, a dream, very bad dream for that matter, where our government keep telling us that in 1 year, subsidy of PMS alone is gulping 4 to 6 trillion naira. If an assessment of our needs in textiles is made, it may not be up to that, but I assure you, a lot of foreign exchange of Nigeria goes out in servicing the economies of other nations. Therefore, comrade, you are right. We recognize that it is part and parcel of what we feel and agree in the manifesto of NNPP, that we need to look inwards and make reassessment and see how reinvestments can be made in those segments. Musa indicated or asked why probably he has not heard us mention the issue of misapplication of funds. Two things, Musa. One of the best ways to make money is to plug off spending them unruly. If in our own opinion, anybody has anything that we believe or he believes and we prove and he knows that money has been stolen, we have said it. If anybody accept to being a thief, is anybody accept of stealing or proven to have stolen, he has to return. Simple. We are not going into a government that will come and do nothing but to set up committees and commissions of inquiries that will last a year, two, investigating to find out who has stolen what and where. But I can assure you, I have been in government and I know you can come across facts as time goes on in governance. And once facts appear, facts emerge, that anybody has taken anything that does not belong to him or has decided to shortchange government in any form, certainly you don't have to even tell him. The law is there and the law will take its natural course.
Okay, and quickly too, Job, I know that we can't do it all. Just some tips of what the comments are.
Well, the comments today. Okay. Abraham James says, good morning, Victor FM and the honorable members in the studio. In my own opinion, I think it's high time we citizens of Nigeria started signing and going into social contracts with our public office holders, especially during electioneering period. We can't continue to have people coming on air to give promises upon promises without doing anyone. Once they win, taking over government, all the promises made are swept under the carpet. Well, this is just his own opinion.
Move on with that.
All right. Amir Mark says, good morning, Mr. Twain, and good morning to the guest. The current government of the APC at the federal and state levels have failed Nigerians and should not think of coming back to power 2022. 2023. Ayuba Ishakodayaro says, security. The current government from federal to state have failed 100%. Numerous have lost their lives, properties, etc. The government of today have no excuse, because I remember back then what they used to say before 2015. May God help Nigeria.
Well, we want to thank you all, for dropping your comments. So many of them that we can't take on this program. But just before we go on the program, once again, we'd like to thank distinguished Senator Sulieman Hunkuyi, flag bearer of the NNPP in Kaduna State, for your time and attention, and of course, and for all the thoughts given to questions that have been asked. We hope that when you come to be as the governor of the state, we'll see you in action. But leave yours with your last line here.
People, like I said, first of all, bad as the situation is, unbearable as we have seen, the most important critical decision and action is change this irresponsible government. Simple. And you do that in a civil way, you do that in a responsible way by casting the right vote in the right place. Thank you.
We thank you on that. And again, in the entourage of the flag bearer of the NNPP, we have the chairman of the party, Mr. Ben Kure. Ben Kure, like to leave us with a line here too.
Well, we thank God for a day like this. The people are there to see for themselves and to do the right thing. Like our governor in waiting said, let's vote them out. Thank you.
All right. And again, still in the entourage, we have Colonel Eddie Gura, top notch of the party. One last word.
Always my delight being at Invicta, because current issues are dealt and given the priority they deserve. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank my colleagues for being part of it this morning. Yusuf Goje, we thank you for being part of it.
Thank you.
Lawrence Obewe.
Thank you to our listeners.
Thank you to our listeners. Job Daniels, thank you for connecting us with the people. And Wisdom, we thank you for putting us in the pictures. We'll come back with the agenda next week, Thursday, on Invicta 98.9. Good morning and have a good day.
Wake up.
Let's wake up.
Good morning, everybody.
What a beautiful morning it
and
is.
Smell the coffee.
Let's get started, shall we?
Wake up and smell the coffee. On the Coffee Morning Drive, 98.9 Invicta FM.
Abun kauna na, ko za ka sabunta min rajistar data ta Airtel?
Abba masoyiyata, ai komai kike ce kina so, zan yi miki. Duk abin da kike gani